Test, test. 1, 2, 3. 1, 2, 3. Looks good enough. So I wanted to make a video responding to some of the more popular comments on one of my latest videos, but also respond to some of the comments that, although disagreed with me, actually made some really good points. And but before we do that, I really want to just thank everyone who even gave that video a chance, right? Like not even like or dislike or subscribe, just clicking on that video is genuinely very kind, and I appreciate the chance all of you have given me. Even if you watch like 10, 20, 30 seconds, you know, it's more time than I really deserve. So from the bottom of my heart, thank you all from to everyone who was willing to even click on the video. This, as of right now, the video has reached over 4,000 views, and that is genuinely insane. I cannot believe that. The amount of subscribers I gained from that video as well is insane. Thank you all who have subscribed, but just know you don't need to, right? Like I went from I believe like 28 subscribers, like 25 or 28, something like that, from the beginning of this week to now having, as of right now during this recording, over 75. I mean, don't get me wrong, it's pretty small, but to me that's quite huge. That's what she said. Um, but yeah, man, I really do appreciate it, you guys. I uploaded that video thinking it would probably get maybe 100, maybe 200 views. You know, I knew that the topic of that video was going to be relatively uh, pressing, you know, for a lot of people. And boy, wow. I am a one man team, right? A one man band, if you will. And the comments just started pouring in. Some of them were very respectful, some of them insightful. Many were actually really nice, but just like everywhere on the internet, there were a few that were a little crazy. So, you know, I had to go through and actually, for the first time ever, moderate my own comment section, and that was an insane feeling. Like, it's it's genuinely, words can't even describe it. It's like, holy crap, people are actually engaging with this. This is an amazing feeling. Um, it feels like for the first time I actually put some effort into a video. And I do want to, before I even go any further, I do want to emphasize that that video was relatively negative, right? And when I made that video, I was a little bit irritated. Obviously, you know, that's why I made the video to begin with. But near the end, I said something stupid like, fun does not exist in Dead by Daylight for killers or something like that. Obviously, I didn't mean every single match, right? It's just in like it's like 50-50, right? You either get put with a four-man S or SWF who destroys you, you know, pops 3 gens within 2 minutes, and you know you got one who wants you to chase you the entire match and they're super boosted. But then other games you got like the goofy survive with friends who are waving at you and they want to like hang out and stuff. Those are the fun ones. I love you guys. Lately I've been playing a lot of Ghostface, and I don't know why, but every time I play Ghostface, it seems like most of the survive with friends I go against, they just want to hang out, and that's really fun. It helps remind me that this community actually isn't as bad as you think it is. It's just a very loud minority of players. But well, other than that, I think we should probably get into these comments now. The first comment. Now, keep in mind when I show these comments on screen, just for the sake of people's privacy, I will be blurring out their names. But there, there are so many comments on that video. Like I genuinely could not respond to all of them. I responded to, I want to say, like maybe half of them, but they just keep coming in. And again, thank you so much for that. Like, even the negative comments, the ones that disagree with me, I like them. And there are some that kind of teetered on the edge of disrespectful, but as long as you're not calling people names or me names, I don't care. Your comments staying up, right? Um, Someone pointed out in that video, I I referred to Survive with Friends as nerds in a Discord call, then or something like that, and I responded saying, "Yeah, not nearly as bad as what some of the people have been calling me, but at the end of the day, like I said, I was a little tilted in that video, but here on the channel, I like to try and keep a positive vibe." Now, this first comment says, "The us versus them mentality will be the downfall of this game. I play both roles, and it baffles me when I'm playing a weak killer like Ghostface, for example, with average, non meta perks against a full squad using Decisive Strike, Off the Record, Dead Hard, Head On, and the list goes on. And survivors will still find a way to rage at the endgame lobby because, God forbid, some of them died in a horror game about survivors trying not to die and escape. The overwhelming majority of players either never played Killer or have very limited experience on how low rank, yet they still tell you how not to play Killer. It's laughable, honestly." Yeah, I will say when I was playing primarily as Killer, I've been a Killer main for a very long time. I was playing Dead by Daylight back when Michael Myers was released on Xbox, and back then I pretty much never played Survivor, but just the entire atmosphere of the game back then was almost completely different. It was very horror based, the maps were darker. Um, Survivors were still relatively strong back then, and a lot of Survive with Friends back then, although they existed, they weren't nearly as chase oriented, right? Like most people back then were still trying to be stealthy and stay out of the line of sight of the killer. You might get the occasional dead hard like body block in there, but to me that was close to the peak of DBD. I started playing again back in I think like 2022, 2023, something like that when I first got my PC. Then I stopped playing and I just recently started playing again. And I really do think this game lacks, well, not the game, but the players really lack the understanding of both sides, right? There are a lot of players who play only Killer and there are a lot of players who play only Survivor, but recently I've started playing both semi fairly, almost 50-50. And even as a survivor now, I've started to get pretty good. I can manage to do a 360 every now and again or a 180, and I don't need certain perks like Windows of Opportunity anymore because I roughly know where most pallets are. And usually when I get down to that in like in a solo queue game, like I almost feel happy for the killer because I know how hard it is to work for that. So yeah, I really do think that if more survivors gave Killer a chance and actually tried to understand their perspective and vice versa, the community overall would be a lot more peaceful and cohesive. All right, next one. When you play Killer, you want to feel powerful, a threat, horror itself. The only game that managed to do that, in my opinion, was Friday the 13th. Jason was almost unstoppable, and for survivors, that created fear, and that's how it's supposed to be. That's why I would play a survivor. I only enjoy being a killer, but the game loses me over and over again the past few years. I heard about The Walking Dead and Springtrap and was curious again, but it lost me after about 15 matches again because survivors just make fun of you and give you a real hard time. I was pretty much the same way. Rest in peace, Friday the 13th. That game was not perfect by any means, but man, it was really, really fun. And I do agree that although it wasn't a 1v4, it was a 1v7, sometimes less because people would just mess around in DC or something. But um, in that game, Jason was extremely powerful. And if you were alone, you were screwed. But if you were together, you were like moderately unscrewed. Uh, you could actually stand a chance if you were together, but that's when smart Jasons would come into play. You have to find excuses to get these survivors to split up. Shut off the power, which makes their fear go up, which gives them less stamina. It's that game was really good, and you know, I I don't know if I would say the game could ever lose me because there's always an itch to scratch, an itch to play as my favorite horror movie like slashers, like Ghostface or Michael Myers. Um, but yeah, I get where you're coming from, and I personally do think there's an imbalance right now, but this imbalance only seems to appear in Survive with Friends, right? Like when you go against a bunch of randoms, the difficulty is insanely different than against the Survive with Friends. It goes from being moderately difficult to insanely difficult depending on the particular group you get. Some groups are much harder than others. All right, let's look at this. The MMR is the true problem. When you play Killer, they put you against a 3 to 4 man team, and when you play Survivor, you get newbies on your team. The reason I wanted to respond to this is because this is actually true. When I started playing Survivor, like legitimately, trying to learn how to play, when I first started to play, I was put with a lot of survivors who, even though they were randoms like with me, they would prioritize altruistic stuff over generators, and it took quite a long time for me to get to even gold, just because not because the survivors were bad per se, it's just their priorities are a little backwards, right? And I feel like killer MMR is extremely like busted because some games it feels like you're going against absolute noobs who just are now learning how to play on a keyboard. In other games, it feels like you're going against survivors who sometimes have like upwards of 9,000 hours as a whole team combined. So, yeah, I get it. That definitely needs to be tweaked a little bit. DBD has this problem where anyone who wants to win can. Want to win as Survivor? Get a 4-man Swift and use clock callouts. Want to win as Killer? Play Blight/Nurse with 4 slowdown perks and Tunnel. The problem keeps getting worse because both sides keep doing it and punish other players for not playing as sweaty as them. I don't really know what behavior can do to fix it outside of completely changing their design philosophy and do some serious rebalancing. It reminds me of a quote from I think an old Civ developer. Given the opportunity, players will optimize the fun out of the game. I absolutely agree, you know? And I feel like one of the ways they could optimize, I guess, this is to add a sort of like competitive mode, right? So most Swifts there will be, like the toxic tryhard ones, whereas like a casual mode would be like the stone ghost face, right? From Scary Movie. Um I do think that's probably the best solution. But another solution could just be behavior in general, going back to older killers like Trapper, Wraith, Doctor. Um, what are some other ones? Man, I can't think any off the top of my head right now. But basically, older M1 killers and just maybe touch up their add-ons because I've noticed with killers like the Doctor, his add-ons, some of them are just straight up useless. Like he has one that turns his shock into a literal ring that goes around him, and it is so incredibly inconsistent. And the add-on feels basically useless for that reason alone. I firmly believe that a lot of the blame can be sent towards maps and lackluster killer powers. If the lower tier killers are given a rework that makes them actually oppressive, we wouldn't have nearly as much of a divide in terms of strength. Another thing is that maps are either too large, too cluttered, or have too many safe loops for survivors to run. Amen to that, man. Amen. Maps like Haddonfield, they that map literally has like what 12, like 10 or 12 pallets on it, and the map is so incredibly small. I mean, no, it's really no wonder most survivors DC when they get that map, and it's it's really so bad to the point where if I as a killer get that map, I tend to just goof around the majority of the time because if I don't and I really wanted to. Even as killers like Ghostface, I could end that game within 5 minutes just because of how incredibly small that map is. So yeah, I absolutely agree. They should go back and look at some of the maps, maybe make Haddonfield a little bit bigger, or just add a few more pallets here and there. And I do know that the the three generators that spawn on the one street, all in a perfect line, that is not good. Even especially against killers like Nurse or Blight, that is horrible. Legitimately, I think the newest response by behavior had emboldened survivors. I usually get very well managed survivors, but ever since the Streetwise fiasco, I've been getting more and more toxic survivors. I don't know if I'd say I've been getting more and more toxic survivors, but they have been noticeably more like try hardish. You know, even for killers, I don't really play that much like Deathslinger. Um, he I've only played like maybe 5 matches with him total, and the first three were very normal, but the second two were extremely toxic, and I had to slug just to get the 4K because every time I'd pick one up, it's just like mine, mine, mine. You know, seagulls just oh we got a body block, oh we got a flashlight save, which is I don't care if they do that like once or twice, but they were doing it every single down. So I'm like, you know what? I'm just gonna down all of you and get it over with. All right, let's see here. Last one. What should behavior do to stop this? I agree with your points. Survivors have way too much crutch perks as well that literally change the dynamic of the game and hurts the killer. I think behavior's problem is they introduce the strongest perks for survivors in this game to help them against killers like Blight, Spirit, Nurse, and etc. Which I understand, but it hurts the rest of the roster of killers who aren't at that level of those killers. I absolutely agree. You know, perks like off the record, decisive strike, dead hard, um, head on, you know, all of those perks, they were definitely designed to combat the top 1%, but it unintentionally does hurt the weaker killers in this game. And sometimes that could be a skill issue, but most of the time it's not. If a survivor with friends has really good communication, there's almost nothing you can do against it unless you're playing as Blight, Spirit, or Nurse, right? Ghoul maybe, but I haven't gone up against a Ghoul in a while actually. Um, there were a few other comments on there about how uh, it's not necessarily a survive with friends fault; it's behavior's fault for basically just letting all these bugs slide and not even trying to balance any of the perks or maps. And after reading through a lot of those comments, I actually agree. I think it was a little bit ridiculous to place all of the blame on Survive with Friends when in reality only about half of it is with them because the other half is on behavior. They're the ones who are making these perks as busted as they are, and then crying when the community says, "Hey man, this is a huge problem. We need to kill switch it." Um, yeah, but honestly, the game is still really fun. It's just a roll of the dice at the end of the day. It's just 50-50. And it's those really toxic, really bad Survive with Friends games that just genuinely makes your blood boil so bad to the point where you just log off for the day and go touch some grass. Uh, those games are bad, but at the end of the day, my love for horror and my love for um, jump scares, especially Ghostface, I've been playing a lot of him lately, is it's just too much, And I really wish we had more moments where the entire community could come together, kind of like with the kill switch thing, and because it's in those moments where peace actually has a chance at thriving, a chance of restoring order, and it's beautiful. It really is. I don't think DBD is on its deathbed per se. More like it's just in a geriatric state, right? It's like an old person using a cane, right? Like it can still very much come back, but behavior, in my opinion, really just needs to take a step back, maybe delay some new content for I don't know, like 5 to 6 months and just focus entirely on fixing bugs and adjusting older maps, right? Maps like Haddonfield and the new quotations Walking Dead map, because that one is it's just ridiculous. I mean, the palette placements are extremely lazy. Um, I can play that map as basically any killer and get it almost a guaranteed 4K, even against the Survive with Friends. I feel like that map is kind of like the second coming of Haddonfield, personally. But let me know what you guys think in the comments. This is a pretty fun video to make. It's a lot more laid back, and also, what do you think about my editing? I've been experimenting a little bit with like meme edits and like half serious, half meme edits. Like I said, I am a one-man band, so any and all opinions are very much appreciated. As long as you just please try to contain your emotions. I get it. Some topics are more sensitive than others, but you know, if you guys like the video, feel free to drop a like and subscribe. And yeah, maybe in your next match, well, maybe in all of our next matches, we could all just take a breath and maybe do some teabagging as a sign of friendship. Talk to you guys later. I haven't used my bamboozle yet. I don't know I have that. Ooh, spicy. I don't know if we ever got a pain raz out of him, did we? I'm about to find out. Let's see. No, we didn't. Good thing I did that. Alright. Go to the stairs. Greeting. Wow. Thank you. He got caught on it too. Throw it. Throw it. Thank you. I'm not going for that. I'm going for you. Yeah, you got nothing here, not gonna lie. Got 2 pallets. Oh, we're BMing? I think they may believe I have Lightborn. Which is pretty funny. Ooh, they reset. Man, I'm so not used to this, these corridors. I'm used to the other version of this map. That gen's like 85%. I'm not working on that. Stop touching my stuff. Not sure what's up with that, but alright. Nah, we're not playing this game. Bamboozle, ladies and gentlemen. Love it on the Wraith. Absolutely amazing. Man. It's probably a pebble. Go back up here, kick this gen. Oh. Did I kick that earlier? Hello. Thank you. Thank you. This is pretty much game over. It's safe to say she has windows. Faked it last time, not gonna this time. Where's Rick? Oh, there he is. Thanks, Ricky Dicky Doodog Rhymes. I appreciate it. He's going the long way. Heard him to my right. Man, he was booking it. Yeah, that ain't happening, pal. I forgot he has balance. I'm gonna go ahead and block that. Ooh, this is... It's not me. Well, I'll let him go. This Ada was following me around for well over half the game. Where's Rick? You're living, my friend. I like you. Give him a little point boost out the door. Wow. GG's. GG.